It seems that Britain had won the war only to face a major social crisis at home. Crime became a political hot potato. In 1952, in the House of Commons, the Home Secretary, Sir David Maxwell Fyfie, was informed that people were being robbed, maimed, and murdered daily in our towns and cities. Throughout the early 1950s, various politicians painted a terrifying picture of a lawless country.
Now, they're in the House of Commons, ready to pass laws because white people are committing crimes, man. These laws that England made weren't for us. These knife crime laws that England made, they made them before we was here. Why? Because of white people running around with weapons, man.
That's right.
Whenever they talk about UN weapons, this is what you do. You get the date of the law that they passed the act and say, well, was black people here in droves at this time? Who was running around with knives at this time? Then you pull up the history where they say where they mention all the weapons that the Teddy Boys had. They passed laws in the House of Commons because these white boys was running around with so much weapons. They didn't pass these laws for us. They passed these laws because these oppressors was running around with weapons, man, committing white on white crime, terrorizing everybody in the country so much that it made its way to House of Parliament. Remind these devils of this whenever they want to speak about black people, man.
That's right.
When they ever want to speak about black people committing crime, you remind them of the crimes they've committed and how they had to have meetings in Parliament.
For some, the term Teddy Boys and Edwardians were simply new labels for something that already existed.
So now they said the Teddy Boys and Edwardian was just simply new labels for something that already existed, meaning for the previous gangs that existed. Go ahead.
In Parliament, Sir Thomas More declared, instead of using the word Edwardian, would not the proper description be young thug?
Give Sir Thomas More a hand, man. Thomas More, he's nail on the head.
Another one, cancer. He later reflected that there were 3 separate waves of adolescent gang activity in London in the post-war years.
So now these like try and blame the post-war years as to why they got gangs. Now people make out like black people brought gangs to England. No, there was gangs in England before us, man. After the post-war, there was gangs in England, gangs of Edomites, man.
Often anything that they could get their hands on. In 1957, fearing that a gang fight was about to break out, 2 detectives forced 75 young
This is what I'm saying, man. Right here is the white gangs, man. There was white gangs in England before we was here. Don't ever let them make it that all gang members is black people. Because before we was here, there was gang fights. There was about to be one right here in 1957. Go ahead.
2 detectives forced 75 young customers in a coffee bar in Wallington, Surrey, to stand with their hands above their heads. Body searches uncovered 2 heavy belts, a weighted chain, a sheath knife, 2 flick knives, a pen knife, 3 lengths of chain, 2 attached to handles, 2 bottles, and a stiletto knife.
And people tell me white people don't carry weapons. These men had weapons on top of weapons, man. They had a stiletto knife, they had a sheath knife, they had a flick knives, they had a pen knife. How much different knives do they need, man? And this was white people before black people was in the UK like that.
That's right.
This was white people before black people was here. So much that they had to pass a law because the knife crime was getting out of hand. And who was doing the knife crime? Oppressors. Go ahead.
A London probation officer revealed that it was not unusual for youths to carry a weapon to give them status in the gang. Superintendent Fabian claimed that boys carried weapons not only to make themselves feel important, but because they knew that their weaponry could instill fear in adults.
And these Teddy Boys would carry weapons to put fear in adults, because England, in a time in England, adults could beat other people's children. And then these Teddy Boys was like, ain't nobody going to be beating me. We're going to bring knives. Have you heard that saying, oh, we can't even talk to the youths no more because they're violent and parents are scared? It started off with these oppressors, man. These oppressors started bringing out weapons. Man, you see when they say it takes a village to raise a child. These oppressors is the reason why why it didn't work. You know why? Because they brought out knives to stop those adults from beating them. It wasn't black people. Now adults nowadays make it like black people are creating all the problems. No, man. What about when the oppressors brought out knives? The oppressors brought out knives so other adults couldn't beat them for their behavior. It wasn't us. This is these Edomites. Go ahead.
Looking back to this mythical golden age, Fabian recalls that in the past, a member of the public could deal with a couple of badly behaved teenagers by giving them a clout.
So now an adult could beat children that was misbehaving. So these children, these devils got knives and said, yo, ain't no adults going to beat us. We're getting rid of that community spirit, man. We're getting rid of that. They ain't going to beat us. So they started to bring knives, willing to attack adults that tried to beat them. Go ahead. Now they made that like attacking adults started with us. It didn't start with us. This started in around the 1950s with the oppressor. Go ahead.
By the early 1950s, however, citizens risked being confronted by a dozen armed gangsters seeking revenge.
So you'd beat one child, and guess what would happen? All the other Teddy boys would come and seek revenge. All of them would come and seek revenge, meaning they ain't gonna get beaten by no adult. It don't matter who you are. So luck you're getting me this one.
In 1958, the lads were wandering around armed with knives, knuckle dusters, and sharpened bicycle chains.
Man, the oppressor had all weapons, man. They had knives, they had knuckle dusters, they had sharpened bicycle chains. What do you think they're going to do with these things, man? I don't know if you've ever been hit with a chain. That hurts, man. Try getting hit with a bicycle chain. They sharpened the bicycle chain, man. A regular one. These are the weapons that the oppressor had, man. Go ahead.
Karuan Khan. Incidents had broken out that had resulted in horrific injuries. Although the assaults often went unreported, the constant...
So now, knife crime would have been higher, but most of the people didn't report it. Most people didn't report it. Go ahead.
Karuan Khan.